Sweaty here to tell you about my $8,000 Porsche 911. Yeah, you heard it right, $8,000 Porsche 911. I have purchased what I believe is currently the cheapest running, clear titled, no accident Porsche 996 in the United States. I've been watching them on Auto Trader, Craigslist, whatnot, and I came across this car in kind of a strange way. Currently a Porsche 928 owner, probably the second most unloved Porsche, right behind the 996 911. And you know what? It's a phenomenal car. I absolutely love it. I've had it for a couple years. It is a beautiful car, and it's pretty much universally detested by Porsche owners as being, water cooled front engine V8 car. Just not a lot of love thrown away. So why not get in the market for the second most unloved, or maybe the first, depending on who you talk to, Porsche, which would be the 996 911, which again I think is a beautiful car. It's unappreciated. Yeah, there are certain design elements I don't love about the car, but at the end of the day, it's a 911. It's a beautiful car, and they're screaming deals right now. And so I've been toying around with the idea of picking one up, and really piqued my interest here was this 4S, 2004 4S. It was within driving distance of me. It was reasonably priced. Somewhat high mileage, north of 100,000 miles, but looked like a super clean car at a really attractive price. And so I have to admit, I'm not an expert on 911s by any stretch of the imagination, and definitely not on the 4S. So I started to do a little research. I headed over to the Renlist forums. They've been a huge help with me with my 928 ownership. There's a lot of guys on there that do-it-yourself repair them, fix things, lots of advice. So I headed over to the 996 section of the forum and started to research the 4S a little bit. I mean, I knew a little bit that it's an all-wheel drive car, that it does have, a lot of turbo styling, the wheels, the brakes, the wider body, some of the intakes, things like that, and just seemed like an overall a great car. I've always preferred the hardtop versions of the Cabriolet in the 996. I think it doesn't do any favors on the convertible versions, the rear end, the rear design of the car. Although, it's probably the most true to a Porsche design. There's something about it just never quite set right with me. So I decided if I was going to get a 996, it would probably be a hardtop version. So I started to research. I was looking at some comparison in the prices, looking through their for sale. They had a Craigslist deal postings. I was looking at those, and I came across this car, which is pretty much the opposite of the other one I was looking at. It's a little older. It's a 99. It is a cabriolet, which I said was not necessarily where my interest lied with the car. But that price, $89.95, I was fished in. And I started to take a look a little bit at the car. Obviously, there are some issues with it. We'll go through the video a little later that breaks down some of the different condition issues with it. There's no history on the car, which can be quite frightening, obviously. And in a car like this, everyone knows the 996, very well known for problems with the rear main seal. The IMS bearing is a huge issue. But I looked at it objectively and said, you know what? This is a car with 175,000 miles. Either the IMS has already been done and we just don't have documentation of it, or it's not going to fail at this point. It would have happened already. The car, being a 99, is the dual row IMS, so it has a little bit lower fail rate there than some of the later cars. And the fact of that mileage, I just thought this car may be worth a gamble. So I called the seller. I talked to him a little bit. I'll get into some more details when I go through. But I did end up purchasing the car, and we're going to have to take a look at this video to see all the details. Alright, taking a look at the video of the car that was posted on YouTube by the seller, you can see that it looks like a nice clean car. Obviously there's a few issues as we'll get in a little closer to see, but just taking a look at it, from a good 5-10 feet away, it looks phenomenal. For a car with this amount of miles, with this amount of use, you start to see things that you would expect. Obviously the tires on the back, they're fairly well worn. They're going to need replaced. But as we start to look around the car and take a closer look here, your bumpers look good. You don't see a lot of damage to it. The paint is original as far as I can tell, and as far as the seller put out there. Obviously, one of the big issues in the front, you've got yelling of those ugly fried egg headlights. There is some spider webbing here on the bumper cover, which is looking not too hot. You've got some rock chips. I know these are things that drive Porsche owners insane. But to be honest, for this car, for the price you're paying for what it is, they're not things that are going to keep me up at night. There is a pretty good sized door ding there, but that looks like that's definitely something you could PDR fairly easily. Taking a look at the back of the car again, looks really nice. The top looks good from what you can see here. Very few, if any, dings, dents, scratches. It's just a nice, clean looking car. There is obviously a crack there in the tail light. Again, car of this age, for what probably going to do with it, I don't even think I would repair that. Maybe if one fell into my lap, I would switch it out. But it's really something that I'm not noticing. This is not ever going to be a show car. This is just a car to drive around, have some fun in, really get out there and do fun things with. So, again, here's some more paint chips, minor things. But I like the detail that this seller is going through to show all these things. It makes me think that he's an honest guy. He's doing an honest job with the car and giving you an honest portrayal of what it is and how it sits. And after calling and speaking to the seller, that's the exact same vibe I got from him. He just seemed like a really good guy, makes his living buying and selling some of these cars that he's acquired through dealership trade-ins, whatnot, maybe the car auction, things like that, and has a good eye for things. I mean, there's a little road rash there. One cool thing that I really like it does have the turbo rims on it. Some of these 99 cabs, 996 cabs, have the ugliest like wire looking wheels on them. I don't know what they're called, but I do like these. I wish they didn't have the turbo center caps, but as you can see, the front wheels are going to need replacing right away. The back ones, they've got a little life in it. Now underneath, you do see a little bit more evidence, a little harder life there. You see some cracks and dents and things, but things that you can hit fairly easily. Now this is the one part of this video that I didn't like, is it doesn't show as much detail on the underneath in the engine. I didn't see any. I paused it. I looked at it pretty closely. I didn't see any really obvious leaks or anything. And speaking to the seller, that was one of the first questions out of my mouth. And he said it was looked over by a mechanic, and they didn't see anything too major. Now we're getting into the interior, and you're going to see probably things that would really turn off most Porsche owners. Obviously, the seat wear here, the bolsters are worn, torn. But all the electric seems to be functioning. The seller goes through all the electrics on the car and shows. And as anybody that's owned one of these cars knows, that this is where you can really rack up some money. Not only are the parts not cheap, but the actual repair, the diagnosis, the labor to figure it all out can be quite problematic. The passenger seat looks fine. The interior looks fine. I mean, there's lots of wear points on the car. Somebody has swapped out some of the things here that looks like the shifter and the e-brake maybe have been swapped out from a different car, but they look nice to me. Now there'll be a issue there with the center console I'll come back to, but yeah, there is a wear spot here on the driver's floor. But again, this car with 175,000 miles, it has been driven. Now this is an issue for me. If you take a look, the back seats are actually missing. There's a bolster there, and then there's the bottom of the seat that's missing. A quick check of eBay has shown these parts are out there. They are available. And they're actually not that expensive, but it's just kind of a weird thing. I don't know if where they were pilfered at, or if they were just taken out maybe and then not traded in or something like that. Got a tow eye license plate holder, which I'll have to use because here in this great state of Illinois we have to have a front plate, unfortunately. But those are the major wear issues I saw on the inside. The car, and it's not really abuse. It looks like just wear. He's got mats. He's got a couple different original mats, and then some like WeatherTech rubber mats, which the seller is kind of excited about. I think they're hideous. I'll probably do whatever I can not to use those. Still has the Porsche CD player. Take a look at the paint codes. It is that polar silver, which is a special order color. And the interior, I'm having a hard time discerning if that's like a blue or a gray, a black even. Depending on the lighting in this video and the pictures, you get kind of a different vibe. But the engine looks really clean. You'll never see an engine that clean in Illinois ever. So I thought that was a really nice touch to see how clean the engine was and how good it looks. It doesn't, it's hard to tell in this video and the pictures, but it doesn't look like a detail clean. It looks like it's just literally that clean. So, a car living in California its whole life, it's really nice. So both keys, as you know, that's a huge cost for a Porsche sometimes is to go get another key. It starts up. I don't see any caution lights that worry me here, which is obviously a big thing. Now we all know those can be turned off or bypassed, but from the way the car starts and runs, I really don't see any issues there. And it's got a great sound to it. I wish, unfortunately, you have to hear me yap instead of the beautiful car running, but it has some sort of an aftermarket exhaust on it. He doesn't go into any detail of what it is, but it sounds phenomenal. Enough that, even on an iPhone video, you could really hear that great rumble to it. So the lights you're seeing are just the door being open and this the top, I believe, or the spoiler. Now in the center console here, he doesn't address it, but somebody has messed with this quite a bit. Looks like they've taken out the factory stereo nav system, put an aftermarket stereo in. I know it's an Alpine. Those are one of the ones people like to put in these cars. So that's definitely something I may have to remedy. I don't know as I put a factory stereo in it, but maybe a dual DIN. Looking here at the top, it looks good. Comes up, buckles up as it should. Looks okay. I can see a few little wear items, but the windows are all working. I know I have a friend that had a lot of trouble with the window regulators in his, so that could be an issue. Again, as far as I can see, all the electrics on the car are working really well, which is very, very nice. Now, taking a look at the cop here, it's going to need a new rear window. Again, there's an aftermarket out there for around $200 that you can put in. Now, these have the zip-in rear window, which actually, from the research I've done, maybe isn't quite as simple as just zipping in and zipping out, but at least it doesn't have to be sewn in. There's a repair there on the top. And then on the sides, I noticed this. Now, I've done a little research on this, and I believe that there are some cables there that can come undone from their mounting points or just out and out break. So hopefully they've just come undone. It's a matter of just riveting them in. But those cables and then will snug down into the channel. So it's unsightly, and I think it's something that would turn off a buyer, but it doesn't really phase me too much. That's a project I can do myself. If it's got engine problems, things like that, stuff you need a code reader, I'm in trouble. I can't do that. But these cosmetic fixes, these are all things that I can do myself or get cheaply done, such as the PDR. So the seller goes on to take it out for a drive here. Really gets into it a couple times. You can hear that great exhaust. I'm listening to the shift points. Everything sounds good. I don't hear any crunching or crackling in the shifts. Anything that would really worry me, he kind of messes around with a few more things as he's driving it. But I'll tell you what, this video really helped me feel much more secure about buying this car without a PPI. So I guess it comes back to the point now, am I crazy or just very lucky? I don't know. We're going to have to wait till the car gets here. I did go ahead and commit to buying the car. I was able to negotiate the price a little bit. The seller was really awesome and helped me work with transport. I cannot believe how cheaply I was able to get this car transported from California to Illinois, and it was unbelievable how reasonable the price was. So there he's talking a little bit about the stereo, but I think he's just saying that you could fix it, put back in the missing thing. So like I said earlier, I probably definitely will want to put maybe a dual DIN stereo in there, and then ditch that Alpine stereo and get either a cup holder or a little storage nook, because these cars, there's really not much of anywhere to put things such as your phone or whatnot. There are some door pouches down the side, but there's not a lot of room. So like I said, I was able to work out a really nice price, and where it started out at, I couldn't believe it, and to get it transported. So I know, once again, you guys are probably shaking your heads and going, this guy is nuts. He's taken major major risk here. Not only buying this car, no PPI, no service history, but then he's relying on this seller to transport it across the country. So in the end, I guess you're just going to have to wait and see for my next video. Tune in and see how it comes out, not only the transport process, but what the car is actually like when it's delivered. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I'd ask you to click through, subscribe, like the video, and come back, and I will have a video up talking about the